Breaking news this morning with the Tennessee Titans. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans are parting ways with general manager Rand Carthon after 2 years holding the position. They announced in a statement from controlling owner Amy Adams Strunk earlier this morning. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker will lead the search for a new general manager, while head coach Brian Callahan will remain in his role. Team president and CEO Burke Nihill said to Jim Wyatt in a statement on TennesseeTitans.com that Brinker, Callahan, and the new general manager will work together to make roster decisions, but Chad Brinker will, quote, break ties with respect to the 53-man roster and will be the final authority on all football matters, including the roster. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. We're going to be taking your phone calls because guess what? The Titans just proved what a lot of naysayers said right. They are a dysfunctional organization, as they have fired Rand Carthon today, earlier this morning while I was at a grocery store, which caused me a lot of stress, and it's all about me. What in the world is going on? This is insane. And at some point, Blaine will be here to be able to express his thoughts. But I'm looking at it and I could almost do the Lions Den. I'm so angry. So for those that may not know, my wife, she is a counselor. She deals with, mental health, couples that are mad at each other. And I am explaining to her everything that has gone down from Vrabel being fired or Rand Carthon being hired to Vrabel fired to here. Okay? And as I'm explaining this, for those that maybe are, know the meme, I'm looking like Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the conspiracy theory board behind them and the cigarette in his hand, just explaining all this stuff. And at the very end, she goes, first, take a breath. Second, this sounds like a directionless organization. This is dysfunctional. And she isn't even in the ins and outs like we are, fans, analysts, media, the day in and day out of this organization. And she can even tell. And she's a Lions fan, so she knows what that looks like. Her whole family has been Lions fan. She knows what that looks like. I may abandon ship and become a Lions fan at this point because this is ridiculous. And I don't even care about Amy Adams Strunk's, Mad Lib, press release, her statement. Because it's just the same thing as what she said about Vrabel last year. Just, take out Vrabel's name, insert Rand Carthon. So who cares about that? But the way that Chad Brinker and Burke Nihill's statements come off, it's laughable. It just reeks of dysfunction. Now, listen, I'm using the term dysfunction. Some people may call it a clown show. Some people may just call it bad processes. But at the end of the day, sometimes you luck into good results with a bad process. And maybe that is what happens with this organization at this point in time. Maybe they just luck into a hiring the right neutered GM personnel that they want to hire, and it works out. I don't know. But the way that they described it is just insane. It makes no sense. And I want to start with Burke Nihill's comments, and these are his comments on TennesseeTitans.com. Rand was hired for a general manager position that was very specific to the circumstances at the time. And the forecasting was the general manager would be able to partner very closely with the head coach, the existing head coach. Let's stop right there. The existing head coach who didn't even want Rand Carthon hired to begin with. And then you fired the head coach that he was supposed to work with and kept Rand Carthon on. And on top of that, you gave him an extension. Another extension. a 4-year extension on a 2-year deal. And he goes on and says, and as the circumstances exist today, the general manager position is different. And it shouldn't be different. You're general manager of the NFL team. Your job description is pretty clear of what you got to do. And so what Chad, who is leading the search, quote, will be looking for is a very different skill set for a very different job description. They're moving the goalpost. How can you hire and say that you hired this GM to work very closely with the existing head coach, an existing head coach that did not want him, and then turn around and fire that head coach and then keep the guy that you supposedly had him work on with? Like, the whole point of him getting hired, Rand Carthon, was to work with Mike Vrabel. It makes no sense. It's got my blood boiled, Blaine, as you can tell. You're going to have to maybe give me a hug later and tell me it's all okay. Let me breathe.
Jackson, come in and help us out, man.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I was in a meeting there to be the new GM.
New GM?
Yeah. And,
I wouldn't take it if I were you.
Well, I told him it has to be a guarantee. If I'm only doing it for 24 hours, that my full contract is guaranteed. And that then broke off the negotiations there.
I'm getting lightheaded just thinking about it. I mean, I don't know if you heard, but I was talking to my wife, like explaining this all to her, and she goes, "Well, this just sounds like a bunch of dysfunction and it lacks direction."
Oh my!
Because I'm detailing the timeline, going through with it, and like she goes, "You got to remember today to take breaths, or you're probably going to pass out." So when you saw it, Blaine, I mean, they've heard a couple of my feelings already. When you saw it. And then you saw at the very end, Chad Brinker is going to pick the next GM, going to lead the search, and Brian Callahan's staying. What was your initial feeling?
Well, I was a little stunned. I mean, everybody was there Sunday, and as you talked about, and a lot of the media heard the grumblings of Rand Carthon's job was at stake, and I was just interested in why is it just Rand? So I wanted to find out through my interviewing process for the GM job that. What was going on here. So the red herring and the red flag here is, as I mentioned a little bit here, not but last week, but last year and everything else, was Brinker's title. How Rand Carthon hired Brinker. And then I don't know how long it was, 6 months or so later, all of a sudden, Mr. Brinker is now Rand's boss. Red herring, right there. So we all know we've all worked in office politics.
Yep.
It goes on here, it goes on there, and over. And I try not to get into all that because it doesn't matter. You're not going to win it. But the people who are in it, and that's what they do. So maybe Mr. Brinker start cozying up. That's how he got his title with the head boss lady. And then next thing you know, he's out there running around as though he's the GM and he makes decisions. And then hence, then there starts the friction right there. That's how I viewed it. And once this happened, now I go, well, why is it just Rand? Because they were collaborating with all three, right?
That's what they say.
So that's why I think it was a little more office politics here and a little bit of a struggle on who was making a final decision. And by the way, somebody had to fall for this unacceptable season. There was somebody that was going to fall, and you were just wondering who, whether it was the people up top, coaching staff, someone. And Rand had to take the fall. And that's just kind of how I view it. But people get to see the real world of how it really works.
This is about, what we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years is how the NFL has been working for a while, but it has become like what usually may be like several events that happen over like a 5-year or 10-year span. It's just several events that happened in a 3-year span for the Tennessee Titans. I look at it and I go, look, I may not know. We may not ever know the true story of what maybe Rand Carthon was bad at his job behind the scenes, and we don't know. We don't know all this stuff, right?
No. We definitely wasn't in the meeting rooms. All we can go based off of
and maybe
roster,
the firing,
the draft, the free agency.
Right.
That's all we can go by.
The firing may be justified for all we know behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But that does not justify the process, in my opinion, because you look at, like I said, I started off at the top, was talking about, these are Burke Nihill's words saying, hey, we hired Rand Carthon to work with Mike Vrabel, and that was the job description. And then they turn around, and Mike Vrabel did not want Rand Carthon. So you forced a GM, first off, a certain job description to work with Mike Vrabel, and Mike Vrabel didn't want him. And then you turn around and fire Mike Vrabel. And again, Rand Carthon's on a 2-year contract at the time. That's when you should have fired Rand Carthon, too.
And then he gets an extension.
He gets a 4-year extension, Blade. This is insanity to me.
No, I think you know what? I think those extensions, based off of the history, all the people got extensions. I felt like it was hush money. That was the dude.
You think it is?
You're going to get fired here in the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, just in case you're the fall guy, here's some money under the table.
That's all I can really say. Because, man, I wish I was in those kind of situations, man. That would be pretty cool. But, this one here is a little baffling.
And here's the Burke Nihill in this same article goes on to say, it is important to Amy to have absolute clarity in the football organization. Okay, well, let's stop right there. She's the one who keeps murkying it up, or whoever it is, she's allowing it to murky up the power structure, to promote people that maybe shouldn't have been promoted, or to give people new titles, or to not give anybody any power during the Vrabel, Rand Carthon discussion. The reason there's no clarity in the football organizational structure is because there was no organizational structure truly given with clear lines of, demarcation.
Yeah, I think that's what Diana Rossini said, something to that effect, which was kind of interesting. So, I don't know if that's true or not, but that definitely could be where this all starts and ends. The only thing that really is confusing is how we just keep going through this teeter-totter of what you're talking about, from coaches to the GM to back to the coach. And, that doesn't help anybody try to understand what the heck is going on.
Well, and then, Brian Callahan said yesterday he hadn't met with them. He hadn't met with them before the presser, as far as I think he was alluding to Monday. He hadn't met with them today, so he just assumes business is normal. Yeah. And now look at him. He looks kind of silly because guess what? Business is not normal.
Well, we don't know if he was actually telling us the truth.
Well, maybe he wasn't telling the truth, but isn't that kind of like, I don't know, like it seems like a lot of people covering their own butt and not enough people taking ownership.
And hence is the problem.
It's a terrible predicament to be in, because the way they've laid it out is that first off, they don't even know what the GM is going to do. The GM has power, but then the GM doesn't have power. And in the second paragraph, they contradict each other already.
Well, I'm going to say this. I don't even want to hire GM. I want Brinker to make all decisions, because
I don't think he wants to make any decisions.
Well, guess what? If I'm the owner, you are now making this. I am not hiring another GM. You're going to make all the decisions, you and Callahan, and y'all going to go out here and scout. Because guess what? If this thing goes awry this year, everybody's gone. And then I'll start from
Everybody
scratch.
should have already been gone.
Right.
And I think we both agree with that.
I do. If you were going to make a move at the upper level there,
and listen, to be honest, when she says, in her statement, that Brian Callahan and Brian Callahan is safe, I don't know if I can necessarily believe that. I mean, to be honest, we haven't been given any reason to believe the words that are given to us.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's not good.
Well, before we go to break, I want people to think about this. Brian Callahan, the head coach, from the beginning of the season all the way to the end, did the team look better?
There you go. That's really what here's the rule for Collins today. If you say Deion Sanders for GM, you're immediately getting hung up on. Okay, I'm just putting that out there right now. I don't have the patience for any Deion Sanders as GM. Yeah, even if you're going to try to slip it in as a joke, I'm going to hang up on you before you get to your point.
I'm going to add to that, not even the coach.
Yeah, not even the coach. Listen, no Deion Sanders talk today. But we want to hear from you, and we're going to get straight to your phones. Phone lines are lighting up, 615-737-1045. We'll also break down what Chad Brinker and Burke Nihill said about what they're looking for a GM candidate, what their job responsibility is going to be, because, they didn't really provide any clarity in their messaging. And then we're also going to talk about some GM candidates that that should be on their radar. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And we're going to go straight to your phones as Rand Carthon has been ousted as general manager of the Tennessee Titans. Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan are safe. Chad Brinker is going to be leading the search for it says general manager, but it's really assistant to the vice president of football operations or whatever his title is. It's just another assistant to be added in. It's a fake title, it seems like. Let's go to Dustin, who wants to talk about the draft. Oh, man, I shouldn't have gone to you, Dustin. We're not talking about the draft today.
Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I'll try to make it quick. I just want to start by saying Blaine always will be my favorite Titans player, no matter what. But I just wanted to put a quick input on what I would be happy with in the draft, and then I just wanted to hear a response from you all about what you think would be acceptable. But I would personally be contacting the Raiders or the Jets right now. I believe they're at 7 and 8. And I was just looking back over the first-round picks and kind of what they got. The two most recent ones were, the Bears and then the Titans, obviously, in 2016. But if I'm a Titans fan and they're trading the first-round pick, I would be less than delighted if they didn't get at least something around what the Bears got. I think the Bears got a first-round pick and 2 second-round picks, if I remember correct. And the Titans, when I was relooking at theirs, didn't get the best picks, but they made Derrick Henry and maybe one other good guy out of it. So I just wanted to hear about what you guys would take as a trade in your mind as acceptable, and just kind of pick your brain on that. So thank you.
No problem, Dustin. I just real quick, I think going in this draft 7 to 8 may be too far back to get you a top-tier talent. You need a top-tier talent, whether it's quarterback, edge rusher, wide receiver, cornerback, if it's, you consider Will Howard or Travis Hunter, whatever have you. I think that may be a little too far back in this draft class.
Mm-hmm. I would consider it for sure. I think if you get, as long as you stay within the top 10, I know this draft class is supposed to be weaker at the top for blue chip players. I think that's what you're referencing here.
Yeah.
And because if you get an extra pick, maybe you then trade back up to the 4 or 5 where you're talking about to maybe get a blue chip, another blue chip guy. So, I think, there's a lot of navigation here that can be done. I've never done that. I think it's a lot harder than people say, but sometimes going into it, I think they already have initiatives and, reaching out to other teams, kind of having conversations that this possibly could happen, where are they at and where they stand, because it seems like that couldn't happen in that short little window. So I think those do happen. Man, they have so many holes. You just wish this was a deeper blue chip draft, though. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. It would be the perfect time to trade
Last year's draft was the perfect draft, by the way, in terms of quarterback play. The quarterbacks you had to choose from, but also the top-tier talent. It was just an incredible draft. Yeah. Now, we won't see a draft like that for a long time.
Real quick, do you think this is an attractive job, the GM job, because they have the number 1 pick? Because I
did yesterday.
I'm conflicted because I think it dooms you immediately if you take a quarterback and it doesn't work, because you're just going to be pressured to play them sooner than later, whether it's week 5, 8, 12. And then, or you should have traded back and got more picks because you had so many holes on the roster. So it just, man, I don't know. There's going to be somebody.
Well, here's the thing. It's like I did think it yesterday. I even said this is an attractive job, and it's maybe that's going to play into her firing Rand Carthon, because there's first off only there's only 2 jobs available right now, the Titans and the Jets, and you have the number 1 overall pick, blank slate at quarterback. But then you hear that there is just a mess at what your powers are actually going to be. So these assistant GMs, over at, these other places are basically going to be assistant GMs, according to who you want to believe. Chad Brinker says that, he is looking for, we're looking for a general manager who wakes up every day and is focused on building the team. I look at this partnership as one heartbeat. We're going to be working together on all things. At the end of the day, we're all going to work collectively and work through what is the best decision. I'm going to allow our new general manager to do his job and set free agency strategy, draft strategy, build a roster, and I'll be right there with him. Okay?
Just like he did with Rand?
So that's what he said.
But do you think he did that with Rand?
I don't know.
So that means you do know.
No, yeah. But then Burke Nighhill in the next paragraph, the next paragraph, Blaine, Burke Nihill says, and so while the general manager position will have a primary responsibility in all these things Chad is describing in terms of day-to-day overseeing the roster and coaching staff, Chad is the leader of the football program, so Chad will have the final authority on all football matters, including the roster.
That's why I said he's the GM.
So is he supporting? Or is he in command?
Mm-mm.
Because Chad says, hey, listen, I don't have any responsibility. This is how I read Chad's thing. I'm just here to support like I have been. I'm going to hire a guy that aligns with my vision. I'm going to hire that guy and I'm going to let him do his job and I'm just going to support him. But then Burke Nihill in the same exact in the next paragraph down. And I'm assuming they're in the same room with how he words this because he says, on all these things Chad is describing, I assume they're in the same room, turns around and says, well, no, Chad has final say on everything.
That's why I would make him because he wants control, but yet he wants to be able to point the finger. It's
Yes.
not me when things go wrong.
That's what this
That's
reads
why I'm
like.
talking about the office politics. This is what happened here
Yes.
now. People got to pay attention.
That's what this exactly reads like. And the problem with that is that, and this has been my problem for a while now with this franchise, is the messaging outside of the building conflicts constantly. And these two guys are in the same room and just conflicted each other. Or at least at least Burke maybe read a list of things or whatever. I don't know. But the paragraphs right next to each other just conflicted with each other.
Really, they came up with their own statements.
Now, if you're the GM, listen, it's one of 32 jobs, quote unquote GM. I'm going to call it assistant GM. For the purposes of this, because Chad Brinker's the GM.
Right, but it has to say assistant GM. It can't say GM.
Yeah.
I think the NFL
It's going to say it.
What the NFL may have an issue with how this is titled.
They
If somebody comes in here and they're not assistant GM and they're named GM and then
Title only.
I think that will become an issue. People don't know the history here, but my wife used to work for the NFL. So I do know how things are supposed to be structured.
This is first off doesn't sound very attractive, right? Because first off, you just fired a guy after being here for 2 years. And now you're gonna come into this thing and you're not gonna have even final say.
Yeah,
that's what it says right here. Now, Chad could say, well, I'll defer to them all he wants, but he doesn't have final say. Again, it's one of 32 jobs, so you may just want to take it. But man, this just screams dysfunction. This seems to me, this isn't just about me being a fan of the team. This isn't about me being an analyst of the team. From a guy with a strong business and leadership background, this is just not how you run a business. Mm-hmm. This is not how Fortune 500 CEOs that are successful run their business.
Well, I take it. I do agree with that, but I take it as everybody's trying to leverage themselves.
Yes.
So they're in a position.
This is like Succession. You ever seen that show on HBO?
Oh, I do, but I don't remember all the details.
So like, there's the old patriarch who owns this news network, and all the siblings are fighting for the succession of the.
Oh, right.
This is what this is.
Yeah, that's how
it's Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yep.
It's just ridiculous. Let's go to Doc, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Doc, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey guys, I agree with everything you just said. And if you look back at the history, Amy came in 2015. She came in, she fired Rustin Webster, kept Malarkey, hired Robinson, turned around, fired Malarkey, kept Robinson, hired Vrabel, turn around, fire Robinson, keep Vrabel, hire Carthon. To turn around to fire Vrabel, keep Carthon, hire Callahan. To turn around, they fired, Carthon.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? That's 10 years. That's 10 years. You know how many drafts? You know what I'm saying? Like, at a point, it's like, I want to put the blame on somebody, but Amy, come on. You got to take your emotions out of, the success of what you want the football to be. I get emotional, too, on Madden. But, Madden is different from real life. So I just feel like she got to kind of really take a step back. She getting that Jerry-esque kind of feel from me. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a good look for us.
Yeah, I agree, Doc. And I think a lot of people are going to have that same conversation. Thanks for the calls, and have that same sentiment. And, I also kind of look at Blaine and I'm like, this may work, But man, you're really putting everybody in a bind, right? The GM doesn't have full power. The head coach is probably going to be looking over his shoulder all year long. What are they going to do with Levis? Is this because maybe they wanted to move on from Levis?
Could be.
I mean, the reason why they state is the record. Okay, but he can't play on the field. He's not the one coaching them. And listen, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., when this got announced, quote tweeted the firing and put up a red flag. You know what that means? It's like your red herring. He's saying that there's something fishy going on here.
I'm trying to tell you, people are cozying up to the owner, as I mentioned, and are having influence. And as soon as Brinker got the title where he was above Rand after Rand hired him, I kept saying, this is odd. What is his job duties?
Taylor H. says in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube, and you can join Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live, says, I have a nit to pick here. Brinker having tiebreaker power doesn't mean he has final say every time, just like Vice President USA tie-breaking, but not final say on everything. They literally say, so Chad will be the final authority on all football matters. Take it up. If you want to nitpick, take it up with them. That's what they say, including the roster. Man. I have it bold and an underline on my notes. So that's where that's at. Let's go to Chris, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Chris, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, this conversation, I feel like, is right on the money. This organization is a circus, and they think their fans are clown shoes. We're a joke to them. There's no real effort being put into the product on the field. It's just we're going to throw stuff at a wall, see what sticks. The free agency was we're going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, plug a hole here, plug a hole there. And I understand that there are going to be limitations to what you can do. We've had awful draft classes. But once again, she kept Robinson on too long, talking about Amy Armstrong. Couldn't stand up to Vrabel enough to put him in line and just had to let him go. So we got Callahan, and God bless Callahan, but I think he's in over his head. Why they kept anybody after this season is honestly a mystery to me. It's been awful to watch. I've seen 2-14. I've seen 3-13. I watched every single one of those games. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring myself to watch half the games this year because it was just such a garbage product. And frankly, if they don't turn things around real quick, the few actual Titans fans that there are just going to check out because we're quickly becoming Raiders tier, Browns tier. This is just an awful situation, and I don't know how anybody can hold their head up high when they talk about it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I mean, here's the thing. We know who's next. It's Brian Callahan. That's the guy on the hot seat going into this season. Because they're going to blame him. Because whoever's the loudest ear in the ownership group room, whoever's the loudest voice is safe.
That's why I would say Brinker is the GM.
He is.
And Callahan, they're going to go down together. Because what's going to happen here when things start muddling up next year, they're going to start pointing the fingers at each other. And you can't fire the GM you just hired if you're going to hire a GM. That's why I'm not doing it. No, now that you've made this decision, don't have really an issue with it. But now I'm going to let the guys who play this little political, it's not me, it's him and that. Guess what? Now it's going to be you.
Optics-wise, this screams scapegoat all over it.
Yes,
and listen,
absolutely.
You hear what the national media is saying about the Tennessee Titans. That's where you're at. You've now replaced, because listen, say what you want about Dave Tepper off the field. Because we're talking about football. Dave Tepper fired his GM and his head coach, brought in a new GM and a new head coach. They worked with the quarterback he liked. They were able to get something out of him. So right now, they're on easy street, right? They did a reset. Bryce Young is looking like it's going to be a solution at quarterback. Their head coach looks great. Their general manager looks great. They're on the right track. They looked at and played inspired football throughout the whole season. Meanwhile, you got a mess. I would have to say that because of, certain people, having to leave the Commanders and all that kind of stuff, this is probably the most dysfunctional organization in the NFL. And I'm even including the Jaguars.
Well, the AFC South, I mean.
Yeah, the AFC South is definitely dysfunctional. I want you to marinate on that, but let's
there's
go.
a lot of luck involved, too, as well. Because once you get your coach and your quarterback, I think things are all settled down.
Someone said, we're the new old Lions. There you go, the new old Lions. Let's go to Luke, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Luke, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. It's just, like you said, it screams scapegoat because I was in the boat that you either tear it all down or you keep them all together.
Yep.
I preferred to keep them all together because you're just dysfunctional if you tear it down after 1 year of trying to rebuild a team that has problems dating back, 2020. So it was going to take more than one draft class because, whoever's final decision it was about Levis, it was not just Rand. Vrabel was also there. Brinker was also there. The reports that Amy wanted Levis. The draft class this past year looked pretty solid. So it was the only shred of hope that you had going forward that they would continue to rebuild like, the Lions did from the draft. And it was going to take time. So now that nobody's on the same page and there's a new GM who we don't even know what the responsibilities are, it just seems dysfunctional. It's like, where's the accountability of Chad Brinker? Because he's been there and now he has even more power. So I don't know. It's just really frustrating. I feel bad for Rand. There were no indications or mutterings that I heard, at least, that, there was dysfunction and argument between him and the coach and him and Brinker or whoever. So it's just a really sad situation, and unfortunately, I don't think next year is going to be any better. And Callahan's caught all in the middle, and I think he is a good coach. But I'll just hang up and listen because that's all I can do at this point. Thanks, guys.
No problem, Luke. Listen, we're just here to listen. At this point, I mean, and I get it. There is a supreme lack of, and listen, this isn't just what I'm about to say is not just because the Titans. I think NFL owners have an extreme. Some of them have an extreme lack, the bad ones, extreme lack of accountability. And maybe firing Rand is trying to hold herself accountable for that. She feels like she made the wrong move in keeping Rand over Vrabel. I mean, again, probably should just fired both of them. And you probably should fire all of them now. And I hate to be the guy to say that because I'm a big Callahan guy. But I think that this is probably one of those situations where Chad Brinker kind of got off scot-free.
He's going to still get to you. Guess what? He didn't hire the coach.
He was in on the conversation.
He was in on the conversation. Yeah. So
him, Burke Nihill, Amy, Kenneth Adams, Rand Carthon were all there. Now listen, you heard the media circuit, right? When Brian Callahan got hired, everybody said this was our guy. We got him. Rand, you should have seen Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan talk about plays and talk about players and their vision for this team.
Well, of course. I mean, you're trying to sell your hire.
Right.
Of course.
But, we didn't hear that Chad Brinker was involved in all that. But, that, I don't know, just, man.
Anybody's been in leadership, you can get duped in the hire now.
You can. They may be getting duped
I'm not even just
again.
talking about coaching. I'm talking about all across the country now. I mean, in any industry you're in. And so sometimes the resume doesn't tell you actually how good they are.
Yeah.
So maybe that happened too. Who knows?
Maybe. When we come back, we'll get to more of your phone calls. We got a ton of people want to weigh in on this, and we're going to get to you. 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
I've been talking about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for years because they're the leading experts in sports medicine and performance and the team physician for the NFL, college, and high school athletics across Tennessee. And TOA provides sports medicine coverage to more high school and college sports teams than any orthopedic group in the state of Tennessee. They have 29 locations throughout the state and over 100 physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. And TOA has 11 urgent care locations with walk-in availability 7 days a week. They offer direct access to sports medicine and performance, physical therapy, and nutrition. Personalized rehabilitation plans to enhance mobility, reduce pain, and improve overall physical function for patients recovering from injuries or surgeries. And TOA also offers sports performance training, a specialized program designed to enhance athletic performance and provide tailored training solutions for athletes at all levels. So please check out the services at TOA.com. Yes, that's right, TOA.com.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. We still got maybe like 1 or 2 phone lines open, so make sure you want to get in. And we're going to go straight to the phones because guess what? Amy Adams Strunk, or ownership, I guess to say, maybe Chad Brinker. Ownership has decided to fire Rand Carthon. He's no longer general manager of the Tennessee Titans. We're going to go to Jay in Jacksonville who wants to talk about the Tennessee Titans. Jay, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
What's up, my brother? How you doing?
I'm good. Hey, do you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, hey, I'm just really like really. I mean, like, what are we doing here? The Tennessee Titans sure know how to stick a knife in their fans. I'm telling you, I can't believe it. Like, I don't even think Rand Carthon even had enough time. I really just feel like that he should have like at least had at least another full year, and everything would have been okay. But but just like you said, like this decision seems like this franchise is just dysfunctional. I don't know what they're doing. Miss Amy Adams Strunk is like, okay, if she just okay, the minute she smells smoke, she's just gonna fire everybody. I mean, is she gonna fire Callahan next? I don't see them like she did this year. I mean, it's crazy.
It's definitely crazy, Jay. Thanks for the call. There's nothing else this to me is just, it's just insanity. Like, I get firing people that are bad at their jobs, but if you're going to put the record at his feet, then you got to put the record at the feet of, because you put the record at Vrabel's feet earlier, right? Last year, she said that the losing 2 back-to-backs, having 2 losing seasons, not what we want.
Yep.
Okay, so if Rand Carthon was a part of that too, he should have gone ahead and got fired as well. But you believed in Rand Carthon enough to not only hire him, but likely, I assume the reason that he got an extension was to put him on the same timeline as the head coach that he hired. And then 1 year later, you fire him, but you're not going to fire the head coach. If you're going to use results and win-loss record, which they did several times throughout their piece, was talk about the 9-25 or the 9-24, whatever it was. Well, that part of that is got to be Brian Callahan too. So you're holding different you're drawing the accountability line in the sand in different places for different people, and that's why you're going to get into this rotation of dysfunction.
Yeah, I would concur with that, and it's just interesting how this all came about because I was in the camp of keeping everybody.
Right.
I think both of us were. But if you were going to, blame somebody, because someone was going to get the blame. That's just the way it's going to be. I thought, well, if he goes anywhere, it was going to be some form of an assistant coach. I didn't think, somebody up top was going to get the blame because it's not enough time to even build that foundation that they're trying to do. So now they're pointing a finger saying that it was Rand. And I don't know if you really can do that. Just looking from afar with all the 3 people in command there outside of the owner to say that he was the lead cog for a while.
But this is also why maybe there should be a little bit more media availability during the season to maybe gain some insight of what is actually going on. Because right now, we have these statements and words to go off of, and these words don't really line up with actions sometimes. So, it's just a mess.
Do you think that's intentional?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I better not say anything. So we're going to go to another phone call.
Is that intentional?
Yeah, we're going to go to Brian, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Brian, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Wow, this is also why maybe there should be a little bit more media.
Brian.
Turn your radio down.
To maybe gain some insight.
Sorry, Brian. We had to hang up on you because we don't have time to listen to ourselves talk. Let's go to Sean, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Sean, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Well, Zach, as a Houston fan, I just want to say I understand what the Titans fans are going through in a time of dysfunction with an NFL team. I love all my friends that root for Tennessee, and you know what? Winning just cures all things. But the reason why I'm calling is because I had a question. If you're a prospective GM candidate, what's your first legitimate question you would ask Brinker, Callahan, or Amy, who's ever in the room? Because this is, the 4th GM head coach combo in 4 years. So what is the first legitimate question that you ask the people in that room or the Zoom call? But anyway, I love the work you put in, Zach and Blaine, and continue to subscribe to your newsletter.
There you go. So here's what I would say to that is my first question would be to ask Brian Callahan if he can leave the room, because I want to know. I want to know first off, is my job security tied to Brian Callahan, and are you guys going to give me enough time? Like, what is the time frame that you're going to allow me to give? Because you guys are in the middle of a rebuild, and you fired the last GM who was in the middle of a rebuild, and the results may not be instant. So, do I have enough time to get things right?
This is talking about for the head coach?
Yeah,
or the GM?
the GM. But
Okay.
I'd ask Brian Callahan to leave because I want to know if my job security
First thing I'm going to ask, I have multiple questions for the GM, and that would be, how would you evaluate this year's draft? And
No,
free
he's
agent?
asking if you're the GM candidate, what would you ask them? Chad Brinker, Amy.
I look at it the other
yeah.
way. I thought he was talking about what would the.
That's what I'm saying. If I was the GM candidate, I'd be asking, is my job security tied to Brian Callahan? How long are you all going to give me before you give me the boot?
I don't know if I'm going to ask that. I think I would ask more for everybody's role clear and sync on what my job duties are and who has what power.
Yeah.
I would make sure that is very clear because looking from afar, I would think from Vrabel till now or JR till now, I would say there was a lot of manipulation going on amongst people just from afar of trying to leverage themselves to power. So I would make sure I would have all the power, and then if something happens, so be it. And then my pay would be based on that. You know, these guys are getting fired. As soon as you get hired, coach, GM, you know that you're going to get fired. So when that time will be, you just want to make sure, you're paid accordingly.
Yep. Let's go to B. Wright, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. B. Wright, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for letting me on the show. I just got a question. Anyone else think it's a coincidence that the Titans got in trouble for not hiring or interviewing minority coaches? They kind of hire a GM that's a minority and then kick them out the door like they're taking all the blame.
I mean, I don't really think that plays into it. Because then you wouldn't give that guy an extension if that was the real thing. Like the extension that given to Rand Carthon is what kind of throws a whole wrench into that whole scenario, for me at least.
Well, I mean, you give extensions to JR, Vrabel, so nah, not really.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we're gonna get to Wayne. We got Bobby, and we got. I think Brian called back in, so we'll get to Brian, and of course, got Bill, Marilyn, Jared, and more of your phone calls. 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. The Titans have hired their second coach in 3 years here. Or, sorry, their second GM. Let me rephrase that.
It's getting a little confusing.
Their second, they fire so many people at so many different positions, I get a little confused. Their second GM in 3 years. Optically, just think about that. Just think about that. And again, maybe Rand Carthon deserved it because there's a lot of accusations in here from them. Listen to this. This is what Chad Brinker said. What I'm looking for is someone who wakes up every single day and the only thing they think about is building a roster, evaluating players, watching tape, working with the coaching staff. And not just someone who knows how to collect talent, but someone who really understands how to build a team and how all the pieces fit together that I can work with, not only in the short term, winning today, but building for the future, the long term, and understanding how all those pieces fit together. If you make a decision here, how it impacts the decision down the road, and really understand the full puzzle. So they're looking for that guy because, in their words, they didn't have that guy.
Yeah, right. That's what it implies.
That's exactly what they're saying.
That's what it implies, no doubt.
So if that's the case, then fine. Firing Rand Carthon, yeah, I get it. Understand it. But it's about processing. Sometimes bad processes yield good results, right? But the process is what I have a real issue with. The messaging is another thing I have an issue with. Did Rand Carthon suddenly become not all of those things, as soon as they hired Brian Callahan? Or was he already all those things and you just decided to keep him and then give him an extension? Because that's still a bad process. That's what dysfunctional organizations do.
Well, what if you didn't know at the time? Let's say.
But how do you go through a whole year of not knowing?
Well, I mean,
because isn't that why you probably promoted
Chad? On a daily basis. Let's put that out there. I mean, so it can be not known. Maybe when a new guy comes in, maybe he starts planting those seeds, and it takes a little bit of time.
And Chad got a promotion,
whether that's real or not. It becomes believable. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know if he got there at 6 a.m. or if he got there at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Listen, you look at it and you think, well, maybe that's why Chad got the promotion. And maybe they thought that Chad would be able to get the most out of Rand, who maybe had a down year. But still, don't give him an extension. Let him work out that second year. Let people finish their contract. How about that?
There's a pattern of that going on here. So whether
they love their extensions.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a monopoly money, man.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's all monopoly money. Let's go to Wayne, who's been waiting patiently, wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Wayne, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Man, honestly, I've been a Titans fan majority of my life, and I'm confused. This is one of the first times in a long time I could be like, I'm confused. I don't know where this organization going. If you fire Carthon, you might as well fire Callahan to just clean the whole house. And then I feel like Chad Brinker stabbed Carthon in the back a little bit, but it's cool, whatever. But at the same time, we got the clown of an owner keep hiding in Houston and making everybody else do press conferences instead of her coming down here to do the press conference herself. Honestly, it's to a point to where she needs to sell the team. It ain't no help bring another Adams in to run it. No, sell the team, get rid of all the Adams. Somebody in Nashville needs to buy this team. And shoot, honestly, I got a GoFundMe going on Twitter right now. If you follow me, Wayne Jr., you're great. We raised the money to get a billboard up to sell the team. Thank you.
Look, he's promoting his GoFundMe for them. What do you think about that?
Oh man, you hear my response. That was hilarious.
He may have been the most
I don't know if anybody's going to walk away from collecting. I don't know how much each owner gets, 40, 50, 100 million a year. I don't think they're going to do that.
So you heard him. You can go to, I think it was, he said Wayne the Great on Twitter to find the GoFundMe.
Oh man.
So you guys, if you want maybe a change, he's got to GoFundMe for a billboard right there. But man, he sound like may have been the most
he was pretty
Southern accent we've had on the show yet of callers. That was pretty redneck. Wow. All right, let's go to Marilyn, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Marilyn, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Good afternoon, guys. How are you today?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing great.
Well, I'm enjoying all this discourse, but I have a question. How in the world are you going to figure out who's doing what, who's in charge of what, when they can't even decide what team we are. Walk into the pro shop and you can't decide if you're an oil derrick or a fireball. Thank you.
Hey, listen, you got to honor tradition, though.
Actually, both.
Yeah, you got to honor tradition.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll have to, I get what she's saying, but, you got to honor tradition. All right, let's go to Brian. I think this is the Brian that we tried to go to earlier. Brian. Oh, hold on. Brian, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Oh, man.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Man, my neck is
That's great. I got a question. You guys would agree that it's hard to win in the NFL, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's why I put the blame on everyone, because you have a new coach, then y'all let him be the offensive coordinator at the same time. He already trying to learn how to be a head coach, and then he wanted to learn how to be a coordinator at the same time, while you got a new quarterback who got to learn a new system. So whoever made all the decisions need to be fired. And when you believe that letting Derrick Henry go was a good idea, you're stupid anyway. And then another thing about bringing in free agents, like the Snead thing, okay? We need to vet these players to see if they want to play in Nashville. Because this is honestly not an attractive place for a rich 25 to 30-year-old young black man. Now, I don't want to put the racial thing on the firing, because I can go all day on that. But none of it makes sense to me. Y'all have a great day.
You too, Brian. Look, the owners aren't going to fire the ownership group, because it's a group, right? It's not just Amy. She's the controlling owner, but there's a lot of, I guess, family members in that room, I would assume. People in the room in the ownership group. So I look at it and I go, they're not going to fire themselves.
Yeah, I mean, man, that's just not happening.
I know that one caller said,
I
know that one caller said he's got to go
free money.
I know that one caller said he's going to do a GoFundMe. Wayne earlier says he's going to do the GoFundMe and put a billboard up, but it's probably really not going to accomplish anything. It'll be funny, I guess, but it's not going to accomplish anything. So unfortunately, this is the ownership group you got until they decide to sell. But I do think the decision-making and the process of getting to these decisions do need to be called into question. Let's go to Jared, who wants to talk about Amy Adams-Strunk. Hey, Jared, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
How's it going, guys?
Going good. How are you?
Jared?
Hey, pretty good. Hey, so, Zach, I called into the talk show on Sunday after the game, and I said I didn't believe there's been enough recognition, if you will, and just what a mess that she's created.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm getting that from you today, brother. So I want to say a couple things. So I think in all these moves, the very first caller, when he went through just move after move after move and the domino effect here, we see what the common denominator is here. We all see it. And I think she is dangerously close to turning herself, as well as this entire organization, into an Al Davis level embarrassment. And I hope she doesn't. But to me, again, and I'm a Vrabel guy. I'll go into that. I'll go into this saying that. I mean, I'm not against Callahan. I want to see us be successful. But she fires Vrabel because he told her that he didn't think Rand was ready to be a GM. And then 1 year later, she fires the GM because she realizes he's not ready to be a GM. And in my opinion, it cost us the best coach that we've had since Jeff Fisher. And he's going to walk up there to New England, and I think he's going to make him a contender. And then the one thing I never hear from her in any of these AI generated press releases or however she gets them is that she needs to better hold herself accountable for the mistakes that she's made, and she needs to do a better job. And part of that is her showing her face. And that went for Rand Carthon as well when he was here, showing her face when she stirs the pot like this. If she truly meant what she said earlier about hearing the fans and understanding and giving them she needs to be visible. I'm not saying she's got to be Jerry Jones and have an after game presser with all the media, but if she truly is gonna make a mess like this and just do things of the caliber that she's doing, come around. Let us see you talk. I don't think that's too much. And until she fixes things, I think with her starting with herself, I don't think much is going to change with this organization. And that's unfortunate for the fans. Thanks.
No problem. I mean, listen, you can kind of view this a couple different ways. This firing, maybe she is holding herself accountable. Maybe she knows that she made the wrong decision initially and made the wrong decision in giving, Rain Carthon an extension, decide, well, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and fire it because that's what's better for the franchise.
Yeah. So basically,
maybe there is accountability there. We don't know, but maybe there is.
Well, basically, she's saying Vrabel was right.
Yeah, they didn't say it, but they said it. You know what I'm saying?
Their actions tell you what they did. Who knows who's right or wrong here? But one thing is not happening is they're not winning. So obviously somebody has to be the fall here, and it was ran in this particular case. I don't know if I really agree with that.
Yeah,
but that's who she chose. So we don't know what's going on behind the scenes and what decisions were done or not done. But what is mysterious here is how Brinker was elevated, overran throughout the year, and then last year, and then now is quasi GM, and then is hiring a GM.
Yeah.
So that there is to me what we should be looking at, and who's got Amy's ear. That's how I view it.
Well, we know who's in Andy. We know who's in Amy's ear currently, but then we know that it also changes year after year. So I guess who will be next year will be interesting to see. We'll get to.
It could be you.
It could be me.
Man, dang, you gonna leave? You gonna work for the site?
Hey, listen, not without some job security.
Well, no, it's the contract. They can guarantee it, man.
Hey, that'd be the best thing for Brian Callahan because I'd give him a long leash.
Oh.
Maybe bad thing for the fans, but unless you know what I'm saying. But
I don't know, man.
All right. When we come back, we got a lot of phone calls to get to. 615-737-1045. This has been a cathartic session. We're just venting, airing the grievances. We want to hear from you. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you it'll be ready at 4 p.m. and it's not, people are really tired of that stuff. If you've ever had an unreliable vehicle repair shop, then come on over to Eurofix. And Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable, and Eurofix will have your vehicle ready when they really say it's going to be ready, and you won't be standing around waiting all freaking day. And Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer and without the dealer pricing. And that's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of the dealership's overhead. And that's a lot of moolah, money, by the way. So why would you want to pay for that? Well, a Eurofix Reliable also means 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And make sure you call ahead as loaner cars are very, very popular. So if you're tired of the unreliable repair shops, come on over to Reliable, and that will be Eurofix. Family owned for 26 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always don't blame you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. The Titans weren't done firing people. Paul Kaharski has reported the Titans have fired 4 more additional people. Vice President of Team Operations, Brent Akers. Vice President of Football Technology, Anthony Pastrana. And Assistant, this is the big one, Assistant General Manager Anthony Robinson has been fired as well. Mm-hmm. And Senior Director of Security, John Albertson, has also been fired.
What did he do?
I guess maybe all these leaks coming out, maybe he was responsible for making sure they stay in-house. Pastrana had been with the team since 1997. Akers since 1998. Robinson was hired at the same time as Chad Brinker by Rand Carthon in 2023. So that is from Paul Karski. More heads rolling. And for all those that are keeping score, that's 5 people in the front office, 0 coaches, and Colt Anderson still has a job. Let's go to Jennifer, who wants to talk about Mike Vrabel. Jennifer, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Yes, I was just looking. I keep up with it pretty much, and I've been a fan from the beginning. But I find it interesting that the Jets are interviewing Vrabel for head coach. Then they're also interviewing John Robinson as a GM. And then I noticed Arthur Smith is also on their list as an offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And I know most people think he's going to the Patriots, but what do you guys think about that, if that was to happen? And
I thought she was done. I'm sorry, Jennifer, for hanging up on you.
I think she pretty much was done.
I thought you were done. I think that I look at it this way. The Jets are interviewing a lot of people, and for a while, the Jets weren't interviewing anybody after they hired the 33rd team, which was their consulting firm during their coaching and GM search. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the John Robinson stuff was just like, hey, we're a little bored. We haven't interviewed anybody. Here's a couple of guys that are out there. I don't think John Robinson is going to get a GM job this cycle. Mike Vrabel obviously has the best chances out of everybody you mentioned. And Art Smith, it'll be interesting to see if he takes a head coaching job so quickly. But I don't think that either of those, I don't think anybody that she named will be the Jets organization.
Well, I have no idea about if they will be, but I think they're all separate cases there. And it would be interesting because I'm sure if John Robinson gets the job, if he was the GM, if he got the job, I don't think he'd be hiring Vrabel after what happened here and vice versa if Vrabel got the job. Yeah. So I think they're not connected at all. I think that's what she was referencing, like how they would match up back together. Yeah. I don't know if that's what she meant, and as well as Arthur Smith. I think they're all interviewing individually as head coaches and GM.
Let's go to Mac, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Mac, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yeah, I just want to talk about kind of the past. Like, we got Vrabel, and probably one of the best things that happened in Nashville, if we're being honest, or at least at the time. And since we started, and he comes in and he wins, we go to the AFC Championship or 1 seed in the AFC, and then we have a losing season, fire the GM. So we're like, all right, John Robinson, now he's the problem. So we fire him. And then we bring in a guy that Vrabel doesn't even want. He says he's not ready to be a GM. And then, surprise, surprise, we have a losing season after bringing in a guy that our head coach didn't want to be there in the first place. And then they're like, okay, now Vrabel's the problem. So I just want to know, like, this cycle that's happening, especially with Vrabel, like, I think it all started there kind of with our losing. They're not on the side of the head coach who's ultimately going to impact if we win the most. So what do y'all think about that?
Well, I look at it this way. Thanks for the call, Mac. I was just during the break, I was listening to Mike Florio talk about this whole thing. And he basically has said when dysfunctional teams are in these cycles, and he called the Tennessee Titans dysfunctional throughout a whole 12-minute video. We didn't get to finish it. But he said it's very important that your franchise basically looks at this like a 3-legged race. You finish the race together or you fall together. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to do that. And when you have teams that go through this cycle, they're dysfunctional. When you have teams that do this these power grabs or power structures that cause all of this, confusion. It's dysfunctional. And they're proven everybody right. All the people who said that this team, after they fired Vrabel, looks dysfunctional, guess what? They continue to look dysfunctional. For when Vrabel said that Rand Carthon wasn't ready and he didn't want Rand Carthon, they're telling you that he is right with their own words and actions.
Their actions.
So they're just proving everybody right. It's just that will it ever change? Whether it's true or not. Right. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, just going through this cycle of, GMs and coaches and, they're not all on the same page. I just wish we would have kind of stuck with it one more year and just to see if it could actually work. Then you then get rid of everybody. But just picking one guy, I think you felt like it was a horrible season, which it was, and that somebody had to fall, somebody had to be the fall guy, and it was Rand. But it optically on the outside, it's not going to look very good from people all across the country just looking at it. Even like when I'm watching ESPN, just think about this now. It was only at the ticker at the bottom. Yeah. Nobody is actually talking about the Titans fired their GM. Like, that's not a discussion. It's not even at the top of ESPN, nowhere. Nobody's even talking about it. So I just feel like we're so far outside of the radar. Hopefully you get a little luck involved here, and then he's going to hire, Brinker's going to hire his guy, and then, hopefully things change. But that is a big hope. And then what happens if it doesn't work, like immediately, and they start off 2-6?
Bye, Brian Callahan. Let Chad cook, I guess, right? Is that what we're going to be saying? What are we going to do? What's the hashtag for Chad Brinker?
No, hashtag for Brinker. Let Brinker bring the Brinks truck.
Yeah. Back up the Brinker's truck?
Yeah, something. I don't know.
Let Chad cook, I guess. Let's go to Gorilla, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Gorilla, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I really don't have anything to say, man. Your audience is just so bright and intelligent, man. All of these guys have kind of stole my thunder. Mm-hmm. And we went through this whole ordeal and got rid of the best. I'm going to say the best coach that we ever had. I mean, and again, somebody make this make sense to me. How are we going to get a quality GM when the end of everything, the final decision is Chad Brinker? Let's just make him the GM and let's just run this thing all the way off the cliff. Mm-hmm. Now, here's my thing. I got one more thing to say about the gentleman that kind of alluded to the race factor. There's no race factor. If I'm 25 years of age in Nashville with $30 million, I want to be here. What I'll tell you to do is take a look at, if you want to know a racist town, take a look at Kansas City, Cincinnati. That's a good one. Boston is a good one. This is a wonderful place. No, we have a front office issue. I believe when we got Rand that he was a DEI hire anyway. I just believe that right there. I didn't think that he had it, because that's why he was never given full reign over the team. And it just breaks my heart. What do we have to give up to get Brave back? I'm sorry. I want Brave back.
You had me the whole time, and then Gorilla, you went off the rails at the end. Maybe we have to start doing the minute thing, because that's the second time in the last week that I've let someone go on too long and then they lose me at the end.
Oh man.
Okay, so we got one. Let Brinker tinker.
Ooh,
there we go.
That's what he does.
Yeah, that comes from the YouTube chat.
Tinker.
It's already off the thing, but I didn't get the chance to see who said it. But let Brinker tinker is the new hashtag. Yeah, I mean, I agree with
the Braves.
I agree with 99% of what Gorilla said. They lost me on the bring Vrabel back. All right, let's go to Brennan, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Brennan, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
I just don't understand how you get rid of Rand and not get rid of Chad Brinker.
I agree.
You had Coach Callahan yesterday. They hemmed him up in the interview yesterday, asking what position Brinker, what role he played, and he basically said he was there with every decision, made every decision right beside everybody. So how do you not get rid of Brinker?
I know, Jackson. Do you have
Blaine, that? I'm with Blaine. Either keep everybody and run it back one more year, And if you don't succeed, then get rid of everybody, or keep everybody or get rid of everybody, one or the other. I just don't understand her thinking.
Yeah, I'm in. What clip were you looking for, Blaine?
Well, I was looking for where, they asked head coach Callahan about, the whole process of how they've all three been part of the decision making. You have that, Jackson?
Yeah, he's
looking for it.
We'll
Okay,
give him looking for it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, this whole situation, I don't get the DEI hire. I understand that there were rumors about that last year when the whole Mike Vrabel thing was going down.
Well, Mike Vrabel said it.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that Rand Carthon was more than qualified to do this job. He had the experience. Now, sometimes when you have the resume, doesn't mean that you can actually do the job, right?
Absolutely.
Because there's not everybody could be a CEO.
Yeah.
Not everybody could be a boss.
Everybody can be a head coach.
Right.
You get opportunity. That doesn't mean you good.
Right. Doesn't make you any less of a person or a man.
Right.
I just can't get behind this whole rumor that got spread out that he was basically forced, because there was that rumor that Rand Carthon was forced by the NFL on them because of the issues with the hiring process at some point. I just can't get behind that. And I think that takes away a lot from Rand Carthon and his experience and the person that he is to just kind of chalk it up as a DEI hire. Doesn't mean that it maybe happens or not in the NFL or in the business world, but I think that's very unfair to Rand Carthon himself.
I completely agree with that. Here's another thing that's unfair. Do you think, watch this, people going to remember this because I thought it was. Mike Vrabel, his last year with the Texans, the DC, which is his only year he was the DC. What do you think they were ranked in defense?
Oh, they were 32nd.
Yeah. How many teams are there?
32.
So there's a lot of people could have said he didn't deserve his opportunity.
Right.
And he got an opportunity. He got better every year. So to me, Rand deserved the opportunity, and hopefully he was going to get better every year, and it just didn't happen. They didn't give him enough time.
Right.
So I kind of look at, there's guys that get opportunities all the time that are not qualified to get there, to have the job.
That's why so many
in the corporate world,
right.
and they learn and grow and move forward. They have the tools, and until you get in that seat, do you know what it's really like? So, I just, and all people have gotten opportunities.
Right.
And that didn't deserve it, and then they end up doing well.
You're inadvertently harming Rand Carthon when you say that. When you boil it down to that, and I don't think that's the case with his resume.
Right. But do you think that was fair that Vrabel said that publicly to a certain extent?
No, I will never think that's fair.
Yeah, so that tells you what he was trying to accomplish.
Right. I will never think that's fair in those terms. And I look at it this way as well, we talked about how not everybody is qualified, but look at how many former GMs get jobs again after they're fired. They don't. No. Tom Telesco is the first one in a long time, and I think there was a guy from Carolina whose name escapes me, Dave Gettleman.
Why is that?
And they flamed out. But you know why? Because people want new ideas, new people. They don't want old ways. And so I think that's why Rand Carthon got the job, because he was the example in my mind of someone that was the total opposite of John Robinson in the way that he viewed the game, in the way that he viewed scouting, in the way that he viewed analytics. And that's what they were looking for. And they got it. It just possibly didn't work out, but it could have worked out if maybe they gave it another year.
Do you think Rand was the scapegoat because maybe he endorsed Will Levis before the season?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, here's the thing.
I'm trying to figure out why he was the standout amongst the other two.
You got to think that you look at everything that was said in the offseason, because, the checks all the boxes, the ball didn't bounce our way. When he was in the media, there was a lot of ammo for the media to say, well, this guy, it doesn't know what he's about, stuff like that. Maybe I think there is, there's a, just because you're an NFL owner does not mean that you aren't listening to the fans. No. And sometimes when you listen to the fans, you make fan-like decisions.
Yeah, sure.
And that you yourself, as an NFL ownership group or an NFL owner, you're a fan of the team anyway. So I think sometimes you get into these situations where you make these rash decisions. They may be justified to a certain extent. But bad processes lead to continued bad results. And what's going to happen? What are you going to do? Because here's the thing. Let's say that Brian Callahan and them go 6-11 next year. Brian Callahan, the new GM, and Chad Brinker. Well, they're probably packing their bags pretty early. They're getting that U-Haul called up. They're not going to expect to stay because that's what the ownership has put into place. And the ownership has also put in the power structure. This continued changing of responsibilities or lack of clarity, that's her job. That is the ownership group's job. That is Kenneth Adams, Amy Adams-Strunk, whoever else is in that ownership group. Maybe even throw the CEO in there, Burton Nihil. That is their job to set the power structure. So they only have themselves to blame for this supposed lack of clarity.
But they can't fire themselves.
They can't fire themselves. Well, they can fire some people, but I guess not everybody. Oh, it's a mess. Let's go to Wayne, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Wayne, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Hey, fellas. Here's what I'm saying, okay?
Okay.
I want Vrabel back. We all do as head coach. Amy should step down. I also want him to personally finish building the new stadium, okay? I want 4 years and 4 Super Bowls before I'm dead.
Okay, this is
and then Vrabel becomes the mayor of Nashville.
Oh, wow.
After that, I'm thinking governor. He should be a governor. But I do not want to speculate further. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks. At first, I thought he was being serious, and I was going to be about to hang up on him. That's going to start a new rule. If you're going to ask for asking for Vrabel back is definitely
He's available.
Is definitely going to be hang upable. I'm going to hang up on you. It's the Deion Sanders' GM, but obviously he was being sarcastic. Let's go to Darrington, who wants to buy Rand Carthon. Darrington, you're on Blaine and Zach.
First of all, I think one problem is we don't even know who owns the team. If you got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterback. You got 12 owners, and you can't identify who owns it. Everything always starts from the top. Another thing, my mom told me a long time ago, boy, 3 people always tell you the truth: a child, a drunk, and a disgruntled ex. Whether it's an ex-employee or an ex-significant other. So now you got stories coming out about Rand being lazy and this and that. It's going to be crazy. It might be interesting to see what Rand has to say about the Tennessee organization, maybe if he gets another position. So I think if you really want to hit the Titans where it matters or where it's going to bother them or where they're going to possibly take notice, quit spending money with them. You don't spend money, they'll notice that. All this talking about you want somebody fired, we know that's not going to happen. But stop spending money and see if that winkers an eye and then somebody wants to start talking. No, we don't want you to be Jerry Jones, but be accountable for something. Gentlemen, have a great rest of your day.
Hey, you too, Darrington. Just to put in some breaking NFL news here, the Raiders, after he had his press conference yesterday, have fired head coach Antonio Pierce.
Antonio Pierce.
So he is fired, out as coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. 1 year, or I guess a year and a half if you count the interim year.
Who's part of the ownership group?
Tom Brady.
Oh, was he teammates with Vrabel? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Another team.
There you go. Let's go to Ernie, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Ernie, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Thank you, guys, for taking my call. I guess this team that I heard just recently, they fired 5 more people or 4 more people today.
They did.
I want to say
it's in the scouting department.
Rand should never have been fired. I think that, and the reason I say that is because he was told to get what the coach wanted, and that was in the job description. They since have changed the job description so that it's because it's not all on the GM. It's going to be a team effort in deciding who they're going to get. So Rand should have never been fired because that was his job description. And I guess if the people who put that job description together is in that group that just got let go, those are the ones that should have been let go. But I'm not so much for somebody has to be fired because if it all came down to they gave him the wrong job description, fix the job description and keep him. He was the best. He had contacts, he had everything, and he was using all of his know-how to get the guys that he got, and a lot of them came because of him. So anybody else taking it, all they're gonna only thing they're going to have to get somebody is how much money they offer.
Yep. I agree, Ernie. But it is interesting. So we're in the middle of draft season. I mean, draft season started.
You got to hold it.
So they fired what is essentially the assistant GM. His main thing, the reason he got the job was director of college scouting, pretty much. I mean, like he was the college side of things, but then he got promoted to assistant GM last year, and then he took on player personnel, free agency, and draft processes. So you fired your general manager, who's already deep in the scouting process. Then you fired your assistant general manager, who is basically his second in command in the scouting process. And you still have a bunch of John Robinson scouts and Chad Brinker. Your scouting process is pretty important to maybe have some kind of stability there. I don't know.
That's why the timing there. But, Brinker, he's going to bring in some of his, he came from the Packers?
He came from the Packers.
Which, we all know how they do a good job of draft.
Well, he came from the Packers. I'm going to give you a few names to put on your radar, and then we'll finish up the phone calls here on Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. We got some more information coming out about the firing of Rand Carthon. These come from Paul Kaharski.
BK's got all the information, man.
Burke Nihill on Amy Adams Strunk not speaking. Amy empowers Chad to talk for the football team, empowers me to speak for the organization.
Oh, so we're going to have a presser?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of press conferences and stuff throughout the season. They were really available. Titans confirmed the moves of the firings of Brent Akers, Anthony Pastrana, Anthony Robinson, and the senior director of security, John Albertson. The Titans have confirmed those with PK, and Burke Nihill says, these are really, really hard decisions and hard days. We've got to set a new standard, and that requires hard decisions. So there we go. Just real quick before we get to your phones and end the show, I do want to give you guys a couple of names just to put on your radar. A Lions assistant
for
general manager. Lions assistant GM Ray Agnew. He's been Brad Holmes' right-hand man since he got there, but they've also worked together at the Rams. Packers director of football operations Milt Hendrickson. He's been around a long time. He almost looks like Chad Brinker, like his father or a relative or something.
Oh, no.
Packers VP of Player Personnel, John Eric Sullivan. He's a football lifer, son of longtime NFL receivers coach Jerry Sullivan, who still works with Justin Jefferson. He's also been at the Packers for a while. Former Iowa corner, Packers director of pro personnel, Richmond Williams, who's been with the Packers for 18 seasons. He's got extensive experience as a college and a pro scout. Browns assistant GM Glenn Cook, who interviewed when Rand Carthon interviewed for the general manager position. He's also worked with the Packer. He had probably a 2 or 3 year overlap at the beginning of Chad Brinker's stint with the Green Bay Packers. So a little bit of connection there. And then just some guys that have no connection, but they need to be on your radar because I like their pedigree. Chargers assistant GM Chad Alexander. He's got Ravens background, a very Ozzie Newsome-like apparently, and also Joe Hortz, who came from the Ravens, wanted him as his number 2 over there.
That means we won't hire him.
Yeah, probably not.
Or even interview.
Chiefs assistant GM Mike Bergonzi, who is Brett Veach's right-hand man over at Kansas City, obviously. He's gotten a lot of interviews as well already lined up, but he's a hot commodity. And Bills director of player personnel, Terrence Gray. He's got extensive scouting background and all that kind of stuff. He's another guy. I would just put on your right. No connection, those three, to Chad Brinker. And he said he was going to get new voices, but he's also going to lean on his connections. But hashtag let Brinker tinker, as they say. Let's go to Kevin, who wants to talk about Rand Carthon. Kevin, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys, how y'all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good afternoon.
I'm doing good. Hey, I got to thinking about this from a standpoint of what are we really looking at? Because, Blaine, you and I had this conversation a long time ago when Dalton was playing quarterback for Cincinnati, and we were at the game, and we were asking each other what was the problem with the Titans. And we said basically it was just that power and drive and emotion. And for some odd reason, I just get the feeling with Bud Adams, I felt like we had somebody who cared about the game. And with Amy, it's just business. And I think that's the difference between where the Titans are today. Y'all were talking about all the, y'all were talking about all the changes with Vrabel and him coming in and didn't want to work with Carthon. And, and none of this is about football. It's all about business and how you run an operation. I know that's important, but don't you have to have the foundation?
I agree. Yeah. I agree. And they're having a hard time, Kevin, establish that foundation.
Well, I would say I disagree with one thing there is that I think she wants to win in an utmost way. And I think that's why decision hence happens so fast. The urge to want to win now.
So I got something.
Uh-oh.
So Jim White at the Tennessee Titans just released an article at TennesseeTitans.com. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker shares his vision for a Titans turnaround. So the question is, this is from Chad Brinker, quote, so if the question is, what is our vision? We're going to be a draft and develop organization. Now, I want to pause right there. Those were the same words that Brian Callahan spoke yesterday at his press conference. He literally said they are a draft and develop. They want to be a draft and develop organization.
Well, he said that before too.
He said that before, but I do think it's interesting. That's the same wording.
Oh, so you're saying that they knew this a couple days ago? Or
very interesting. So, and he follows, what does that mean? Number one, it means we're going to build the core of our roster through the draft and we're going to be selective in free agency. Number two, it means we're going to emphasize player development, particularly our young players. And number three, once those players are developed, we're going to be looking to retain our core performers, our very best. I grew up in this system. It's what I know. It's what I believe in, but it requires patience over panic. So let's pause right there. It requires patience over panic. It doesn't sound like that's what just happened today.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sound like there was patience. Sounds like there was a little panic. It requires being disciplined people with disciplined thought and disciplined action. But it's also a system that's been proven for over 30 years. So, some more parting shots for the prior GM, I guess, and is how I kind of take that. You may not, but that's the saying disciplined 3 times is really odd, especially for a team that, under Brian Callahan had a bunch of penalties.
Yeah, it led the league.
Again, probably should have fired everybody.
It led the league in turnovers too.
Yeah, disciplined. All right. I can't believe they're having me turn on my boy Brian Callahan like this. Is how they got me back. We're not going to be able to get to everybody, but we're going to try and get to many of you as you can. Let's go. Rapid fire. Connor, Blaine, and Zach.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. So today I'm embarrassed to say that I'm a fan of the Titans. This is a clown show organization, and it feels like that Amy makes sure that we're the laughing stock at least once every season. I feel that if Rand's getting fired, then Chad and Callahan also need to be fired. Get rid of everybody. Collaboration's dead. Let the GM actually be a GM instead of having to answer to someone else above them. Who's actually going to want to take this opening, especially when they don't have the final say? At least that's, from the grapevine. This is ridiculous, sad, incompetent, miscalculated garbage. And right now, we are fans of a joke of an organization. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Now we're going to go to Andrew because we're going rapid fire. We're trying to get to everybody. Andrew, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Going on.
Keep it short, but this is basically just what happens after years and years of taking half measures and taking, the wrong approach to everything, but lucking into a couple good results. I think we can say that her career arc has kind of mirrored J-Rob's when he started here, where the first couple years were really, really good because you can kind of pick the low-hanging fruit. You could renovate the St. Thomas Sports Park. You can put in a new kitchen. You can do all these things. But then when the hard decisions come, everything after J-Rob has been a disaster. After firing him, the hiring process of Rand, if you're going to keep Vrabel, why are you not including him in the GM process, the hiring process? If you're not going to include him, then just fire Vrabel and move on.
I agree. Clean house has been how we kind of been. Mm-hmm. If you're going to fire one, fire them all. But we've been pro patience. Supposedly Chad Brinker is too. Listen, this could all work out. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I mean, just because it's a bad process today does not mean it will yield good results in the future. Maybe it does. Maybe they'll luck into it again. Listen, we couldn't get to all your phone calls, but stay on the line because 3HL's up next. They'll be talking Tennessee Titans, of course, and the firing of Rand Carthon as general manager and the other firings. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.